Hey everybody, welcome back to Oopsy Daisy. We are so excited that you're here. I have a special guest in studio, and here's what's really fun is she's in my studio, like sitting 2 feet away from me, which a lot of times when I have guests, we just do it virtually on the computer, on Riverside or whatever app I choose to use. Mm-hmm. But it's really fun to have you, Emily Bisek, sitting 2 feet away from me.
Yes.
So just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you're about, why you're here.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Emily Bisek. I'm 33. I grew up in New Prague. I'm a mom. I have 2 children. I am in recovery from long-term hard drug addiction. I've been through a lot. I'm a Jesus lover, and he has saved me from so much darkness, and I am just ready for my story to have a purpose and reach people's ears and make a difference in people's lives. So I'm excited to talk.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here. I have to tell everybody kind of how we met and then re-met years later.
Yep.
And so our paths kind of intersected. I mean, obviously it was God. And, you know, Emily was over a few times and just kind of talking about some things that she was going through. I think we met through my husband because you had known my husband, Chris.
Yep.
And so I got to know you a little bit. And then there was like years. How many? 5+ maybe?
Yeah, at least 4.
Yes.
At least 4, yep.
Where we didn't connect. I didn't know if you were alive and well, what you were doing. And just a few weeks ago, actually, we were worshiping in church and we're singing, and I look over and my husband goes, "Hey, that looks like Emily." And I look over and I was like, nah, you know, you just never expect to see somebody.
Yeah.
And then you looked over and we caught eyes and I was like, "It's you.
Yes.
You're back." And then I started crying and there was like a hugging moment.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
Emotional.
Yes, it was. And so then after that, we were able to pray together, and it was so crazy because I had been sick for a couple days and I actually was not going to come to church that day.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, our pastor texted us and said, "Hey, will you be on a prayer team?" And I was such like a little brat about it. I'm like, I don't feel good. My nose is stuffy.
I'm sick.
I better stay home and rest. But maybe it was like my people-pleasing tendency that was like, get me out of bed. But I got there, and I'm so glad I did because I saw you again, and you got to share just a little bit of where you've been recently and what you've been walking through. And
I would just have to say that your prayers are so powerful. And also the cool thing was, if you remember during the service, we were, you know, praying, handing things over to God, asking like what does God want to give us back and things like that. And I, for whatever reason, got this vision of myself with a microphone, remember? And I shared that with you. And it was just like, I don't know why this is happening. And then you told me that you have a podcast. So that was really crazy because God was definitely nudging me like, there's some mic talk supposed to happen.
Okay, I got the chills because I remember you saying that now, but before today, I had forgotten that happened. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh no, I'm like double chills. Well, I'm really excited and thankful that Oopsy Daisy happened to be the microphone from your vision. So I am just going to kind of hand it over to you. I know you said before we hit record that there's a lot, that you've walked through a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just going to let you share, and I'm going to jump in with questions. Chris always says to me, Amanda, you have a lot of questions. And I'm like, yes, because I'm curious, and we got to go deeper on some things.
Right.
So I'm just going to kind of let you take over and like, tell us what you've walked through. I'm so excited to hear your testimony and hear what God has done in your life.
Okay. Well, yeah. And like I shared with you before we pressed record is I don't want to keep anything off limits just because I feel like I've always tried to be a person who keeps it real and is honest, and I know how important that is for my recovery and my healing. So there definitely is a lot. You know, I'm 33 and I started struggling when I was 12. So but I just know that God's gonna use this. So I do feel a little nervous, but I'm just gonna go for it.
Get it, girl.
So I grew up in a really awesome household. I have 2 parents that are still married. I have a little sister. I played sports. I was a good student. You know, I had a lot of friends. I have a big family that I see all the time. So I had a very happy childhood. And there really was no reason for why I started struggling, but I just remember in middle school, so it was right around the age of 12, puberty area, that I started having a hard time sleeping. I just feel it, looking back now, knowing that it was depression that I started struggling with. It was, I feel like I was really just kind of hiding that from people and just keeping that part of myself hidden and just continuing to, be the person that I felt like I was expected to be, get good grades and, like I said, excel in sports and things like that. But I was really struggling inside and emotionally and mentally. Right before high school started, I started self-harming. I was cutting and burning. So at that point, obviously my parents knew, they saw it and things like that and could tell that I was going through something. So, they started trying to get me help. That the first time I went to therapy, I was 13. And that was the first time they put me on meds. So they put me on sleep meds at that age, which is young to need sleep meds. But it was bordering on insomnia. It was really bad. So they put me on sleep meds and an antidepressant. I wasn't really ready or wanting the talk therapy part of it. It didn't last very long, like the actual therapy side of it. But that's when I first became, medicated. The self-harm lasted into my teen years. But things really, really shifted for me right after high school started. Like I said, I was in 3 sports. I played volleyball, basketball, and I ran track. But that's when I started drinking. And all up till that point, my friend group was all, athletes, the preppy kids, if you will.
Yep.
And, I'd been close with all the people that I'd been playing sports with growing up and, had the same close group of friends that I'd had since elementary school. And I really just shifted my entire focus away from people like that and looked for people that were partying and escaping.
Yeah. So was this you, were you the one in your group that was like, hey, let's drink? Was it people around you that were doing it and you got hooked into it? Or was this you searching something out to numb out, to escape?
I would say it was definitely me searching out because the people that I had been friends with up to that point weren't really experimenting.
Gotcha.
People started going in different directions, kind of a thing. So there was the people that did start experimenting, and it was, a couple of the girls that were in my grade, but we started just hanging out with older kids, and it was going to a party, my first couple weeks of freshman year, and that was the first time I drank. And after that, I really just continued. It was like, okay, this is something that I want. I want to just escape. Yeah. I want to. I just didn't care anymore for whatever reason. And
you hear stories, people hear stories about okay, as an alcoholic or, an addict, I knew after that first drink that I was hooked. Did you have any experience like that? Or was it just sort of a slippery slope that kept going down?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I feel like I definitely knew that I liked the effect that it had on me. I mean, I know I got drunk the first time I drank, so it was something that when it came to substances, I very much took it to, what's the word?
To excess.
Thank you. Yeah. To excess. Yes. And, it was a slippery slope, but it was definitely something that I knew right away. It was the effect, the escape really that it was, like the numbing feeling that it had. And I also just really had, for whatever reason, like a desire, I've always been an adrenaline junkie, and it was like that, just like a partying atmosphere and almost that kids getting in trouble, doing the wrong thing. I had, for whatever reason, that just a rebellious spirit in me, a really rebellious spirit in me.
Yeah.
And that's something I know the enemy has used against me, in my life. But it definitely just came on really strong, like I said. So I did play volleyball that, fall of my freshman year, but I quit basketball in the winter. And I had already tried smoking weed by then, started skipping school. I was smoking cigarettes, drinking not just on the weekends even.
Yeah. Yeah.
So things did with my substance use, it escalated really quickly to just how much I was using and how regularly.
So I think you would think as a parent, if you already know that your daughter is struggling with sleep, with depression, with self-harm and all that, that you would be sort of under a microscope. Did your parents know that you were using? Did they know about the drinking, or where were they in that?
Yeah, no, they definitely did. And that's where it was really hard to keep it a secret, because I was sneaking out. I was just kind of like running away, and they would try to ground me, and that just didn't faze me. And it's like I would just run. I'd have one of the older guys pick me up. I'd run down my road and get picked up by, just that whole thing. So they were very much aware that I was out of control.
Yeah.
I just think that they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I do remember, like I said, I have a big extended family, and we're all really close. And I remember, it was when the self-harming thing, it was my freshman year for sure. So it was when they knew that, substances were already an issue, as well as the self-harm and, my mental health struggles, that they kind of had like an intervention for me, like a bunch of my cousins, my aunts, my parents, my sister. But it was very much, like I don't know what you're doing. Like, you need to get it together. Like, you know better than this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much like empathy or wanting to understand what was, underneath it. Because at that point, it just looked like I was out of control, getting in trouble, skipping school, sneaking out, all that stuff. But I mean, the self-harm and the mental health stuff started before that, but at that point, it was kind of like that wasn't the focus. It was more just like, because out of my whole family, no one got in trouble like that. I was kind of the first one out of all my cousins and everything to just go down that path so quickly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So they were very much just, they tried to love me and support me, of course. But like I said, it was very shame-based. And that's something I didn't mention. I grew up Catholic.
Okay, I was about to ask, like, was God at any part of your childhood?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So, yes, I grew up Catholic. So, we did go to church a lot growing up. I went to religion, every Wednesday. But my perception of God was very much, he's angry at me if I sin, and I need to, confess my sins, and, that's the only way that God's going to be happy with me.
Yeah, if you be good, then he'll be happy.
Right. Yeah. And very much wanting to keep things hidden, like feeling like I had to hide things because, I knew that I was supposed to be ashamed is what I believed.
Yeah.
So that definitely very much affected my relationship with God. That didn't change until I was an adult, really. My parents, would pray for me, and we would talk about God and stuff like that, but it just wasn't, I didn't feel like I had a relationship with God. It was like, I'm being judged by God, and he's there, but he's there in a way that you're doing something wrong and you need to fix it.
Just like watching and waiting for you to do bad stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So
after this intervention, how did that make you feel? Or how did you react to that? Did that make you want to do better, be better? Or was it like, F you guys, I'm not doing this?
Yep, it was definitely the latter.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it definitely, like I said, that the rebelliousness just came out even stronger. And it was, but I like I said, I do know now and can recognize it looking back that it was like, I immediately was like, okay, I'm the black sheep. Like I'm a fuck up. Like I'm a screw up, I'm getting in trouble. No one's happy with me kind of a thing. And so it just really started that whole kind of just my self-worth and my self-image just got really skewed. And I think I kind of just, I said, fuck it. And it was like, if this is what you're seeing and telling me not to do, I'm just going to go to the extreme and do it even harder. Yeah, and my mental health continued to deteriorate. Something really big happened winter of my freshman year. Shortly after that intervention, I would say for sure. Me and two of my girlfriends, we got a 175 a Captain. It was a Friday night, and we drank the whole thing between the three of us. So I was, of course, very much intoxicated. Mm-hmm. And there was a boy I liked at the time. He was someone who was getting in trouble already in middle school, and I kind of knew him as like one of the troublemaker kids.
Yeah.
And so I had a really big crush on him. And long story short, I ended up sending him naked pictures. Mm-hmm. I, of course, thought that they were just going to stay for him. You know, by Monday, I went into school and I knew everyone had them on their phones. They had gone all around school within a couple days.
What was that like going into school and realizing that?
It was, it's hard to even describe. And it's crazy that it's so long ago, but I can still just feel for my 15-year-old self, you know, knowing that not just people in my grade, my whole grade, but my whole school. And I was a freshman, you know, and knowing that all those older kids like saw me naked, and I was a virgin at this point. Wow. I mean, in all the healing I've tried to do, I don't think I've ever realized how much that impacted me, and how much it, skewed my opinion of myself. And I mean, it was beyond humiliating, of course. And
were people vocal about it to you? Like, yes. Or was it the elephant in the room? So people said stuff to you?
Mm-hmm. I remember, at lunch. So, you know, that's however many hours into the day, I was in the locker bank and just saw just groups of people all over their phones looking at, you know, and then looking at me and comments being made. But that later that afternoon, one of the pictures, like full body naked picture, was the screen saver on all the computers in the computer lab. No. Yes.
Oh, Emily.
Yeah. And so at that point, I got called into the principal's office, and it was, you know, became this big thing. They called my parents. They demanded to know who was responsible, like who, you know. So it came out, and I had to give them his name. Yeah, I didn't go to school for like 2 days while they, you know, cleaned it up. He ended up getting suspended, the kid. But yeah, I to be honest, I don't even remember how it went with my parents after that. You know, I think I just kind of like shut down. Like I had like a trauma response to it, and kind of just really blacked everything out for a while after that. And so within a couple weeks, I didn't want to go to school. I do remember that, telling my parents I don't want to go back. And of course they're like, right. But they, you know, they're like, you have to go back to school. And, you know, he was suspended, like I said, but I still had, and the crazy thing is that I still liked him, which I'll get to. But a few weeks after that, I ended up trying to kill myself. And, you know, I wrote notes to people. I wrote notes to my family. I wrote a note to him, and, you know, to the people that I was close with at that time, not even, you know, my old friends that I'd known my whole life. Like, but I drank a whole bottle of alcohol and took a bottle of pills, swallowed a bottle of pills, and my dad ended up finding me, took me into the hospital to get my stomach pumped. And yeah, it's just crazy to get emotional about it now. You know, it's something that I've obviously said so many times that, you know, I tried to commit suicide when I was 15, but just the way that I still can feel it and feel how it was to feel that way is crazy. So after that, my parents very much were really gung-ho on me getting help. Yeah. Obviously. I ended up staying at an inpatient mental health facility for, it was like 10 days or something. I wouldn't say it helped, really. I guess it just continued to like solidify in me that I'm really messed up. Like, I just remember feeling like that. Like, it's like now I'm stuck in a psych ward type place, you know? And I was still very much just struggling with even wanting to live. You know, news spreads really fast. And, you know, so I already knew that, you know, people were going to find out about that. And, so that was just even more of a reason for me to drink and use. And I just didn't want to feel anything. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then when I got out of the mental health facility, I ended up losing my virginity to the same guy that I sent the pictures to.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That was a plot twist that I did not expect.
I know, right? And I just threw it out there.
Yeah, you did.
Because I was like, okay, I gotta like keep things moving.
Well, and it makes sense too. Like you said that your self-worth was so damaged,
Mm-hmm.
and your self-image and the way that you thought of yourself as
Mm-hmm.
screwed up, messed up, black sheep, all of these things.
Right.
I mean, it would only make sense. Like a decision like that is in line with somebody who that's their identity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense that you were like in a really, really broken place.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that it's even with the picture thing, knowing that everyone had seen me naked, it was just things for me with sex and how I viewed myself, like the fact that I just didn't treat my body like as a temple at all. I kind of, because those all went around the school, I feel like I knew I was like an object. Yes. Sex for me from the very beginning clearly was very, unhealthy and just twisted. Continued during high school, just having sex, partying, never sober, of course, whether it was using or sex, it was just, or, even the cutting was still going on at that, anything to not actually feel my emotions, not actually deal with anything. Mm-hmm. So I did run track my freshman year in the spring. And I feel like that was something I did kind of consciously make that decision, like, okay, maybe let me like give this one more chance. Like maybe I can turn it around. I smoking cigarettes before practice, like before track practice.
Great part of an athlete's routine.
Right. It was, not good. And so once the season was over, it was summer, I just continued. My parents really didn't, know what to do with me. They really didn't. And I hate how much I put them through. They just they tried their best, but I just had no regard for authority. And I think that's something I've known about myself as well. Kind of goes along with the rebellious thing, is just not having any respect for authority. And I remember it used to be like my motto that rules are meant to be broken, so any boundaries they tried to put in place for me, it was just no. And I was pushing them, I was breaking them. And so it was more of the same. My sophomore year also escalated very quickly for me in the legal. I hadn't gotten in any legal trouble up to that point, but there was someone that I was very close with. And, we were very much the same person. She had also been struggling with, self-harm and depression. And, we were on the same path, had been through a lot of the same things. And we were really, really close. So the winter of my sophomore year, we actually, we skipped class. We went outside and we were just sitting, smoking cigarettes and drinking in like unlocked cars. So we're, in the parking lot, we find a car, right? And we're like looking through the car to see what we could find, and the keys were in it. And it did not take us long at all to decide that we were going to take the car. And then we're driving, so we're still just staying in town in New Prague with this stolen car. And, one of the other seniors passed us and was like, yo, like he called the cops, you better bring that car back. Right. Gosh. So he tried to like give us the heads up, but we said, okay, we got to get out of town. It's winter. She ended up crashing the car into the ditch, and, we got it out, but something, long story short, we went to Target, stole some stuff. We come to a stop sign and the car just dies. Like, starts making this noise and just dies. Yeah. And we sit at the intersection for long enough. A cop comes within 5 minutes. I didn't register the fact that this car was reported stolen already. Oh my gosh. I was just like, oh yay, the cop's gonna help us. Oh my gosh, officer, our car.
And meanwhile, you're drunk.
Yes, exactly. Wow. And neither of us have our licenses.
Oh gosh.
They, pushed us or whatever to the gas station that was right up the street, and ran the plates, and we got arrested right then and there in the Quick Trip parking lot.
Oh my gosh. Like handcuffs back of the car?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Handcuffs back of the cop car. It ended up being 2 felonies.
Did that moment hit you, like the seriousness of what was happening? Did it hit you then, or were you still just in this like, well, this is what's happening, this is what's next?
I mean, I think then being in the back of the cop car, it hit me then. But I mean, I had never been in trouble. You know, I'd never really known anyone who had been in trouble, so I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. But I definitely had that moment. I remember that sinking feeling where I was like, this is bad. Mm-hmm. In custody, actually in the juvenile facility for, I think originally was a couple weeks. And I just remember my parents were just couldn't believe, you know, just shocked that I had gotten in that serious of trouble. Mm-hmm. Nobody in my family has been in any kind of legal trouble. My parents were, you know, just squares, you know.
So and I mean, truly a pioneer,
right? I mean, yes.
Let's put a positive spin on this.
Yeah, right. Thank you. No, I do appreciate that. Definitely carved my own path away from what my family had done. So I think it was, you know, it's kind of like we're going through. I mean, obviously, I'm the one going through it, but they were going through it with me. You know, it was a brand new doing the whole court thing and. Juvie, I ended up getting put on house arrest. I had to blow in one of the little box things that like takes your picture while you're blowing in it because I wasn't supposed to be drinking or anything. I ended up getting probation violation for that because I drank while I was on house arrest. So that wasn't even my first probation violation. I skipped school as well. And that was my first probation violation. So I had to go back to juvie for, you know, like, I don't know, 3-4 days or something. And that's when they put me on house arrest. And then I got caught drinking on house arrest and they sent me to Lino Lakes, which is the like highest level of juvenile detention in the state. So I was there with like people that had murdered people and very serious
Were you scared?
Criminals. No, I wasn't scared of the people that I was in there with, which that's kind of who I probably should have been scared of. But no, I just, this complete lack of fear, which is, not good. Obviously it didn't work in my favor, in a lot of ways, but, I think it did help me, you know, deal with a lot of things, just kind of, I don't know if it was just being kind of not letting myself be fully present or, you know, kind of dissociating enough to where I just didn't recognize, you know, all the possibilities or all the circumstances that I was a part of. But yeah, so I was in there for almost a month. My family couldn't even come see me. Like you couldn't have any visitors. I had to go to school in there. It was crazy. And I haven't talked in depth about that place, but that place was crazy.
Why?
Just the way it was almost like boot camp. Like from what I've heard about boot camp, it's like that. Like you have to, the way that you have to speak to the COs, they're called, you know, the correctional officers, like, sir, ma'am, you have to ask to, they used to have all these, lines, like you had to stay behind a line until you asked permission to cross the line. They would come throw everything around to search your cell and scream in your face and just really.
So like that's what you see on TV.
Yes.
So that is like.
That was definitely legit. More. Yes. Like the scared straight kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, oh, she wasn't even scared straight by this.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Sadly, again, another fail in what I was supposed to learn. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely like that. So a very crazy experience. And so I ended up getting kicked out of New Prague High School because the crime happened on the parking lot.
Okay.
So I was expelled. So I ended up after finally got out of Lino Lakes. I went to Jordan. I enrolled in Jordan, which was, I know lots of people have moved and had to go to a different school, but that was my first experience with that. I'd been in New Prague school since kindergarten. And that was crazy. It was intimidating for sure. I was glad, it's an even smaller town than New Prague. But I definitely knew that I was going to deal with it by just finding the people who partied, and didn't take school seriously at all, skipping school, the same kind of stuff I was doing. But yeah, still using all the time. And, I ended up, going to a party in New Prague actually. And that's when I met my son's dad. There, I started spending the night there all the time, even on school nights and stuff. And he'd drive me to Jordan in the morning on his way to work. And this was October-ish of my junior year. And by January, I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yep.
Were you, I'm thinking how to phrase this. Not that you were trying for a baby, but were you not really paying attention to protection? Was it like a total accident with protection?
So I used to, while I was pregnant, I wore a shirt from Spencer's that had an arrow pointing down and it said proof that the pull-up method doesn't work. Right? But
simply the classiest.
Right. Clearly had no shame whatsoever. Whoa. But yeah, because that's what we were doing. I'd only been having sex for a year. So I was like, okay, that's going to be enough. That's safe enough.
Yeah.
But nope, it wasn't. And actually, when I found out in January, I was already eight weeks along.
Wow.
So I actually got pregnant within the first couple weeks of us meeting.
Wow. Yeah, that shirt was accurate, though.
Yes, right? Very accurate.
Shady and accurate.
Yes. Obviously, I've already been talking for who knows how long, but, in 2 years, everything's happened that I've already shared, and then now I'm pregnant as a teenager.
How did you feel? Were you excited? Were you like, oh, this is my life, like I'm going to marry this guy? How did that hit your brain?
I was scared. It's like he was older than me. That gave me some comfort. He had, had a good job. He had money saved up, and I knew those things. So it's like I felt secure enough. And for whatever reason, I never considered anything besides just keeping the baby and going through with the pregnancy. That wasn't even a thought in my mind. And I actually told my little sister before my parents, and I, was too scared to tell them. Yeah. So she was with me when I told my mom. I didn't want to tell my dad. I made my mom tell my dad. And yeah, that was, just a lot. At the same time, be coming to terms with the fact that I'm pregnant at this age, but also have to deal with just the judgment and the fear of how people are going to react and what's going to happen. So it was a lot. It was just another thing that, became part of my reputation then at that point. I was kind of labeled a teen mom. I'd already, went to juvie, kicked out of school, naked pictures all around. I already had all that going on. And then I was pregnant at 16, 17. And
small towns are notoriously gossipy and not friendly to people that don't necessarily walk like the quote unquote correct path.
Right.
It's very easy to get judged, to get labeled, to get side-eyed everywhere you go.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I mean, I knew that was going to happen. And, my family, they were actually amazing when it came to that. I mean, my mom cried, for me, of course, and just knowing how much it was going to change my life. But they were very supportive and definitely made it known from the beginning that I wasn't going to be in this alone.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that made a huge, huge, huge difference. My son is very, very close with my family to this day. But, I knew that I wasn't going to be alone. And, that really helped me be able to go through my pregnancy and deal with, everybody else and what people were saying and how people were judging me and whatever. I finally felt kind of backed and supported by my family, which was huge for me. And
also kind of surprising, honestly. Like, I'm thinking of myself as a parent after everything that's gone down. And now this. Yep. I mean, kudos to your parents for having the grace and just the love and compassion for you to be like, yeah, we're here for you. Like, you're not going to do this by yourself.
Yes, right. And like I've said, my parents did their best. But I've never doubted how much they loved me, and when it came to that, they I think they probably knew. They knew how scared I was, and how that was so much different in a way than getting in trouble and going to juvie, getting the other. I mean, that's that's life changing, obviously. So, you know, it was something that definitely at that point deepened our relationship. I didn't want to feel any more different than people than I already did. So it was like, okay, let me just kind of stay in this party scene. Let me feel like I'm, you know, still a teenager.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I was sober cabbing him and his friends a lot, staying at parties way too late, you know, the whole time I was pregnant. I did try to take, you know, really good care of myself and eat healthy. And I was working while I was pregnant. I worked at Dairy Queen, which is amazing being pregnant.
Yeah. Those dilly bars.
Yes, right. All the ice cream.
Yep.
Strawberry cheesecake blizzards were like my jam. But you know, I really tried when I was pregnant. Because I think I was, you know, preparing myself. But towards the end of my pregnancy, I realized my son's dad loved me a lot more than I loved him. And so that was really scary, because I remember towards the end of my pregnancy knowing that, you know, our baby was about to be here, and I didn't feel like I wanted to be with him.
Wow.
So I was kind of dealing with that by myself, and I didn't want that to have be another reason why people were judging me. So like, I just remember not sharing that with people and just kind of trying to like stick it out and like know that obviously this would be the best thing in my mind, is what I thought, you know, for the baby. It's like if we're just together, but I knew that I wasn't in love with him anymore at that point. My son was born the first week of my senior year. His name's September 5th, 2008. And oh my gosh, I love him so much. And of course, having a baby at any age is difficult. But thankfully, my parents and my whole family had really supported me up to that point. My mom actually threw me a baby shower my last month of my pregnancy, and had all my, you know, aunts and cousins and family friends, and I had everything that I needed for him when he was born. And my mom was in the room with me, and my grandma actually was in the room with me when he was born. And it was a lot, and you know, it was a lot for me to try to balance, obviously, trying to be a new mom and still just not being done being a teenager. My parents really, you know, they'd watch him on the weekends, and my sisters. So, I mean, they just, I'm very, very grateful and blessed that they were there for him when he needed someone. And I was off, just dealing with all my emotions in a really unhealthy way, and just not sure, how to let go of that piece of me that, just wanted to numb myself. I was actually enrolled in a school for teen moms and pregnant moms, but so I went back to school, you know, I think it was 4-ish weeks after I had him, and I got to bring him to school with me there. They had a daycare there, and that was really, I mean, it was an awesome resource. And so I was, you know, got to go see him on class breaks and things like that. And that time period while I was there for a couple months, and it was kind of a blur, but I just really remember just realizing how much I was like missing out on. And they let me go back to New Prague. That was always my goal, was to go back and graduate from New Prague. So, you know, that was a really big deal for me, and it was a big deal for my, you know, my family. And I did get in quite a bit of trouble. I was skipping class, and you know, I actually had suspension for like the last month for one of my classes. You know, but I really tried to get that high school experience with you know, my friends. And
knowing what had happened before with the pictures and everything, what was that like going back? Was that hard to face everybody? Was there still talk of that? Was there whispers down the hallway still? Or what was that like?
Well, no, definitely at that point it was that I had a baby.
Oh, on to the next thing.
Right. So it definitely was hard, you know, and I did feel that judgment, and just kind of always feeling like trying so hard to be around that crowd, but also really at the same point still, you know, sneaking out, skipping school and drinking and partying and doing that I was just kind of trying to live like a double life there at the end, to just try to, fit in or feel normal, but I definitely didn't. There was a lot going on. And
was your drugs of choice still alcohol and weed, or had you gone to harder things at that point?
Yeah, good question. I had done I started doing a lot of ecstasy. But obviously, like I said, was clean besides smoking weed 2 times while I was pregnant. But so ecstasy, and then I had done coke. Oh, and pills. So that's when painkillers, opiates, Percocet, and Vicodin. But I was doing a lot of all of that.
Yeah.
When my son was little. And that's actually, so this is where my addiction gets really bad. High school ended, was going to try to work, and still, of course, my son's 6, 7, 8 months old at this point, and I was trying to do the responsible thing, especially being out of school. I was like, okay, let me get a job. So I ended up actually working where my mom works. She works at Lion's Tap, and my mom was a little not super excited about me going to work there with her. So I was serving there, but I was showing up, super hungover and just not, definitely not the greatest employee. And that caused a lot of tension between me and my mom.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Which I'm sure you can imagine. That's really where my shame just grew so much deeper. Just that mother guilt really started to take over. Mm-hmm. When he started just getting bigger and, getting teeth and just all that stuff, and just the little moments that I wanted to be a part of. And then I was just still just stuck in my addiction and stuck in my, world of using and just the party scene. I started smoking Oxycontin, and that very, very quickly and immediately took control of me in a way that nothing else had. I loved the feeling.
What did you love about it?
That for me is the one drug that it just totally numbs you out. It just makes you feel nothing, just like euphoric, just nothing, just kind of like you're floating. Yeah, I just loved how it made me feel, and how it didn't make me feel, basically. That it just numbed me out. And so I started chasing that, like I said, way, way harder than I had anything else. And they were expensive. So,
gosh, you just read my mind. I was like, where do you get the money for this?
Yeah.
How do you get these?
Yep. So obviously any money that I'd made working was gone really quick.
Yep.
And I started stealing from people, from my family. And I would take change into the banks and, try to come up with $20, $30. And, I started pawning my parents' jewelry, and terrible, terrible. But it was like, I was willing to do anything to get high. And that's the terrible thing about opiates is if you have withdrawal, you get physically sick if you don't have them. So I started experiencing that, and it scared the hell out of me, and I didn't want to ever be sick.
Yeah.
So I was willing to do anything. Not that I had very many standards for myself up to that point, but I had no more I didn't care who I hurt, and it was, my family back then had to do a lot of healing afterwards, just the, jewelry that had been my grandma's and things like that, and it's like, I got, a couple $100 for it to get high for a couple days. And it's just like so fucked up. I just hate that part of addiction, that you're going to throw away things that have so much meaning, just to get high for something that doesn't even last, know?
Where do you get it? That's my question. Like, I knew people drank in high school, and like I attended my fair share of parties, but as far as the drug scene, I just don't. How do you access it? Or is it way easier than we think?
It's definitely way easier than you think. Yeah. Okay. Around more than you would think. It's like, especially being in treatment now as much as I have, it's like, it's so common.
I think that's good for parents to know too. Like, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I think sometimes, especially in a small town, we get lulled into the sense of security of like, oh, that's probably happening in the bigger cities. That's happening in the Twin Cities. That's happening on the coasts or whatever. And
Definitely
it's
not true.
It's small town business too.
And sometimes it's worse, like in small towns, or there's, it's just crazy. And knowing what I know about, meth and opiates, and, I'll get more into that, but it's everywhere. A lot of kids are dying, and that's what's scary.
Yeah.
Especially now that, the heroin and the fentanyl that's out there now, and you just think that there's no way, your child or someone is going to be around that, or, but it's just, you never know.
Okay. So here's a question, and taking this in kind of a different angle, but this is really great to know. I have heard recently, and we've had conversations with our kids too, about like the weed that we might have smoked 20 years ago is not the weed that is happening and getting smoked now.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. Okay. Absolutely correct. Yes. No, nowhere near. I mean, it's way, way, way stronger than what it used to be. And they're lacing it with things. And that's what I meant when I said, kids are dying. Maybe they think they're taking ecstasy for the first time at a party and it has fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
Or the weed has, you lace it with Coke, you lace it with anything, Xanax, and the strength of things. Drugs have it's definitely grown and gotten to a really scary place.
Yeah. It's good to know. It's good for all of us parents to know it's never too young to have these conversations.
No, never. Don't be afraid to.
Right. And I think too, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm stereotyping a bunch of people, and maybe me included, but like sometimes it feels like it's too strict. Like if we're like, don't do it, and this, that, and the other thing. And I think sometimes people want to be like the cool parent. Yeah. But I've thrown that out the window, and like we regularly tell our kids. I mean, it helps that my husband's a drug and alcohol counselor, but we just regularly tell our kids, like there's so many arguments for marijuana. People are going to tell you it's for medicinal purposes. It's just a plant. God gave us plants.
And now it's legal.
Yeah. Too. And now it's legal. And so just for parents to be aware too, that it's not like you're just smoking the leaf or the flower off a plant anymore. It's just way more. It can grab you easier with potency, and lace with stuff. So thank you. That was like a great little PSA for parents out there.
That was. So I was working, still wanted to go to college. And like I said, I did have the help that I had with my family, and they were willing to let me, stay with them. And I was going to commute, live at home until that started, whatever it is, August of 2009. And it was a month or two before that that I tried Oxycontin for the first time. So school was not going well, obviously, with my addiction. God really took the opportunity to wake me up. This was not even my first near-death experience.
Oh, wow.
I left out, but I can tell it now. So right after I'd gotten out of juvie, as we remember, me and a bunch of friends went to the Minnesota River. It was like when after the snow melts and like the currents are really strong and they're swirling and they're doing all that stuff. So it was literally like we were going to go like see that and just like hang out at the river. But so we were standing like really close looking over, and people jokingly started acting like they're going to push each other in.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So my friend did it to me, and I actually slipped and fell in the water. Immediately got like sucked like under the road. The current's rushing towards me, and I'm under the road.
Oh my gosh.
I really thought I was going to die. I thought that I was going to die in that moment. And who knows how long it was. Obviously I live my friends.
Thanks for the clarification.
Right,
that was my next question.
Yes, I do actually. All of a sudden, literally, like it sounds cliche, but I saw like the light, like I saw this big bright light.
No way.
Yes. And under like something in me just said to like I felt like I was holding on to something, and I think I must have been holding on to the grate, but something inside of me said, just let go. And I let go, and I got sucked through to the other side of the road and popped up. And my friend, the guy who I had a crush on, dove in the water because it was April. So the water's freezing cold. That's the other thing. freezing cold. The current's crazy. So I start going down, just going down the river again super quickly. He dove in and like had to drag me to a tree. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty big deal. I don't know how I forgot that.
That's a huge deal, especially because in that moment, that's God. Like it's not Satan telling you to let go.
Yep.
That's not
exactly.
Your body's not thinking, your mind's not thinking logically there. So I 100% believe that was the Holy Spirit that saved your life.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was, so like I said, now it brings me back to this. I had another near-death experience. I was on the way to school. It's winter. It was super foggy, plus had just like snowed and the roads were terrible. Mm-hmm. And I was driving way too fast because I was late for class. It was foggy. I couldn't see. And all of a sudden I started coming up super quick on a car and knew that I couldn't brake. So I swerved to the right and I ended up rolling my car 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. So another absolute God moment. And it's the fact that there was snow is what saved my life. Obviously, if there wouldn't have been snow, my car would have just smashed, and I would have been, the window smashed out when it rolled a couple times. It landed on its side and I had to crawl out of the car, like to get up out of the snow. I had to go up to the road and wave down a car. But it was crazy. It was scary. And, definitely God, I feel like just trying to shake me like away, like, telling me like, you're supposed to be here, but what are you doing?
Oh yeah. That's, what's funny that you said that is because that was exactly my thought, was that he was telling you, I'm keeping you here. There is a reason for you to be here.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Or like the symbolism of, like I'm going to crash and burn if I keep doing like what I'm doing. And like, I felt like that too. Didn't keep me from, once again, I didn't, have some life-changing experience to where things turned in the other direction. But that's, where God just made it really known to me again, how much he was watching over me.
Yes.
And, how many angels I felt like I had around me and all of that. It was really amazing. Not long after my accident, things got really, really bad with my family. And that's where I had, been stealing, and my family was really getting to like the breaking point. They decided that I was either having to go to treatment, or I was kicked out of the house, and I went to treatment for the first time. And it was inpatient treatment. It was up in like Mendota Heights. And, I remember hating that I had to leave my son quite a bit, but I at least saw him, every couple days, every other day. And, that was, my first time knowing I was going to have to be away from him. And that was really hard. I was going to go do it for him, despite, my family wanting me to do it, or I was kicked out. It was like, yeah, okay, that motivated me too, or at least got me to the point where I had to make that choice. But was really my motivation. So I was supposed to be there for a month. Well, I was there for a month. My parents actually came to like family group. Before the family group started, they were in there with all the other parents, and like they were talked about how they just felt like so excited to be here, so relieved, like so happy. And my mom, she's like, we were looking around and these other parents just looked defeated and down. And my mom was like, we were just thinking, why are they, so sad? And their, children or whoever it was, their family member, the addict, probably had been through this, how many times or whatever. When my mom told me the story, that's what I think it must have been. But it also gave me like that insight of what it was like for my parents to really think, and like my mom said it, she's like, we just thought that they're going to get you help. Yep. Things were going to get better.
Yes.
It was going to be done. And we were just so ready for that and so excited. And it really broke my heart for them to tell me that. To think that it was going to be a one and done, you get treatment and that's going to be it. And I think that's it is a misconception about addiction, and treatment does not mean that you're gonna stay clean forever.
Yeah.
But so they did bring to visit me there as well. And I just remember, feeling like, okay, maybe I can do this. But at the same time, I ended up meeting someone in there. I was good friends with this one girl, and she was also into oxys. When I got out of the treatment center, I ended up talking with her and ended up going to hang out with her, and we got high. Not long after I got out of treatment. I think I was only clean for maybe 3 weeks to a month. And I tried to hide it from my parents, but it obviously just restarted the cycle, and I was back into it. And it was kind of like, oh, it's a new connect, someone to get them from, and she could get them cheaper and that whole thing. Yeah. And
before you relapsed, did you think you were just like, okay, we're just going to do this one time. I'm just going to get high one time and that's it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that, because that absolutely was it. It was like, okay, kind of thrown into treatment, or like it wasn't what I was expecting. And so I used that as like, an excuse or rationalizing and justifying, like, oh, well, I want to do it one more time.
Yes,
like,
I got to say my goodbye
one more time. Yes, exactly. Yep. But I mean, I think also, I'd only been clean for a month. So, and that's the thing about substances is you can't do that. That's going to reawaken the beast or whatever. They say that in treatment, and bring all those demons back up really quickly.
Did you have exit routes? Like, looking back, were there little things that you could have taken a left instead of a right, or you could have, gotten out of it some way and that would have been different?
I mean, for that time specifically, or just in my life?
Maybe this time? That's a good, maybe that was a loaded question. But this time.
It was definitely a loaded question. This time that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even though, I had that near-death experience, it was just a couple months before that. There wasn't something like that just kind of like right in my face,
Yeah.
Nothing like that happened. And I don't think that I was just in the place and open enough to the Holy Spirit to like hear those nudgings, you know what I mean? I just wasn't in that place. And I know he obviously works like that and speaks that way. But I was just still in just such an unhealthy place.
Gotcha.
I was in treatment for a month, but I didn't really do any good work on myself there or anything, so my relationship with God at that point was just not what it is now.
Yeah.
And I knew that God wanted me here for a reason, but it was also like, oh, well, you're supposed to be doing better than this. Like, what are you doing, kind of thing. So I kind of felt like I was hiding from God and running from God, when I did make that choice. So that restarted, the whole using. I was using every day again, not long after that. And this is actually when I met your husband. So my parents, knew once it was a daily thing, I couldn't hide it any longer. So they immediately wanted to try to get me help again. So I ended up going to outpatient. So when I met Chris, he was my counselor.
Yeah.
He was so awesome. That was different because it was outpatient. I didn't have to go be in there, but that also kind of worked to my disadvantage because I wasn't held accountable for what I was doing when I wasn't in there.
Yeah.
I admitted it to my parents first, I think. I think it was more like, well, I'm still using anyways. Like, I don't want to go anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
Type of thing. And I just remember Chris knew that I was, still using, and, try it again. That was my second try, but, not much came from that. Summer-ish of 2010, that is when they stopped making the real Oxycontin. They changed them so that you couldn't like abuse them anymore. I was smoking them or people would snort them. They made them to where you couldn't do that anymore. You couldn't break them down or anything. They were really hard to find, for one, and going through withdrawal if I didn't have them. And someone that I was going through and getting them from all the time had heroin, up to that point, done all the drugs that I already said, but I felt in my mind like those weren't even hard drugs, like the hard drugs, and being in treatment the couple times that I had too, when people would talk about heroin or meth, those were like the two big drugs in my mind. And I knew as a opiate addict already, doing Oxycontin, that was a risk I had, to kind of graduate to heroin or whatever. The fact that I couldn't smoke the oxys anymore and I felt like I needed them, was reason enough. And it really wasn't even a thought in my mind. I got some from him that night and I tried heroin for the first time.
All right, let's cut the conversation here for now, but don't worry, we'll be back next week with more of Emily's story, more of what God is doing. You guys, it is redemptive and amazing and crazy, like jaw-dropping, eyebrow-raising. Do not miss this one on the next episode of Oopsy Daisy. We'll talk soon.